Good morning, guys. Welcome back. All right, so I kind of planted a seed on this news right here with you guys. I think it was on Sunday. I posted a little TikTok video from a news anchor commenting on it. And it says right here, what happens if the US hits the debt ceiling? Lawmakers squabble as nation nears limits. Now, it's going to be more difficult for them to push this through now because the Republicans have the House, okay? So they have more disagreements and more differences now. So it's going to be a lot harder. Okay. And here's something I want to share with you guys on this.
What happens if the limit is not raised? If Congress fails to raise the debt ceiling, the government would automatically default on its payments. In the more than 100 years since the limit was enacted, this has never happened. Failure to meet the government's obligations would cause irreparable harm to the U.S. economy, the livelihoods of all Americans, and global financial stability, Yellen wrote in her letter to leaders of both parties in both chambers. Even the threat of default could cause economic downturn, as happened in 2011, when the country's credit rating dropped as a result of the drawn-out debt ceiling debate.
Okay, so what we're looking for at this time is we're actually looking for them to not increase the debt ceiling. Again, we're looking for them not to increase the debt ceiling or debt limit and borrow. Okay? If they don't do anything with the debt ceiling, I'm going to have some huge news for you guys on Friday morning. But I need time to see how this plays out and see what happens with this, okay? So, and I'll give you a clue on this. Bill Clinton, that's your clue. Okay, again with this, Bill Clinton is your clue. Okay, let's move forward. Let's get into the news. All right, economist, switching to electronic payment in money exchange will not solve the dollar crisis.
The economic expert, Nasser Al-Khainani, confirmed that the shift to electronic payment in the exchange of funds and financial transactions will not solve the crisis of the high exchange rate of the dollar, pointing to the importance of rapid action by the government to reduce the exchange rate, which is witnessing a continuous rise. Al-Khainani told Al-Malumah that the project of shifting towards electronic cards and dispersing money does not heal the grievous, as Iraq's financial problem lies in imports through black transfers. He added, the step of dealing with electronic cards should have been applied years ago instead of cash payment, but the problem lies in the lack of a culture of dealing with these cards, and if it is wanted to be applied, it needs more time. Al-Khainani indicated that the current situation in Iraq needs quick solutions for the purpose of stopping the rise in the exchange rate of the dollar by finding immediate solutions by the government before the problem worsens and the rise continues, and as a result, the government must go to address the rise before taking any measures related to the transition to electronic payment.
So as you guys see, it's very clear and obvious. They are removing the dollar from the country. And they made it very clear right here that the only way to correct this, it says rapid action by the government to reduce the exchange rate. They're telling you that's this article, the source is an economic expert. So they're telling you the only way to correct this problem, because they know it's as clear as day, that they're removing the dollar, reducing the dollar tremendously, going electronic with it, and because of that, they're pushing the dinar to be the primary currency. So the only way to do it is to reduce the exchange rate and give it purchase power and make it internationally recognized. Okay, so it's very obvious what they're doing here. The dollar is going bye-bye. Next article. Electronic payment reduces corruption and controls the dollar in Iraq.
The economist, Bassem Jamil Antoine, confirmed today, Wednesday, that electronic payment will reduce corruption and control the exchange rate of the dollar, while citizens considered that the process was unsuccessful in Iraq due to the poor living conditions of many of them. Antoine said in an interview with Shafaq news agency, everything new that enters the citizens' daily life encounters a kind of objection and resistance until they get used to it, noting that this situation requires operations before starting it, such as educating the citizen about the importance of electronic payment and awareness, and media, especially some citizens' culture in this matter is considered simple. He added, although the process of starting electronic payment cards will be in the month of June, until the import of POS devices and ATM devices there is also an option for cash payment that the citizen can use. And Antoine stressed that electronic payment has one of the good advantages in its use, which is reducing errors in cash accounts, and it also protects people from the transmission of diseases, and reduces corruption, as it will impose control on the dollar when capitals are released and laundered, meaning that there will be control over them, and this matter is also it is used in almost all countries of the world. For his part, the citizen, Hassan Hadi, said in an interview with Shafaq news agency, despite the electronic payment process, it is considered one of the banking development processes, which is what is in effect in the countries of the world, but it cannot be applied in a country like Iraq, noting that most of the citizens in Iraq are from the poor class, whose strength is on a daily basis, and therefore they do not have financial surpluses in order for the card to be filled with money for shopping with it from shopping stores, restaurants, and other stores. He added, the banks in Iraq, whether governmental or private, are shrouded in many problems and administrative red tape that are difficult to deal with and issue such electronic payment cards. Yesterday, Tuesday, January 17, 2023, the Prime Minister issued several decisions, including activating the electronic payment process in all aspects of our lives, directing the Central Bank of Iraq to facilitate procedures for granting licenses for collecting bank cards using points of sale, POS, reducing commissions on banks and obligating all centers and shops of all kinds by opening bank accounts and providing point-of-sale devices for electronic payment.
As you guys see, the dollar is very clearly going away and getting tremendously reduced. We don't need to read this whole article here, guys. We have a lot of articles to cover. We're just going to give you a quick summary on it. Minister of Labor to the French ambassador, Iraq is a country with promising opportunities, and the National Service Agreement is keen to open up with countries to the world. Just showing you that Iraq opening up with countries to the world. They're going international. Here's part of the article.
The minister said during his meeting with the French ambassador to Iraq, Eric Chevalier, according to a statement by the ministry, that Iraq is still a developing country despite many problems, but it is a country with promising opportunities by virtue of its geographical location first, and its natural and human resources second. He explained that the national service government is serious, and is keen to open up to the countries of the region, the neighborhood, and the open countries of the world, pointing to the Prime Minister's intention to conduct an upcoming visit to Paris, and we hope that it will come out with fruitful results for the two countries and the signing of agreements in various fields that Iraq needs.
Open up with countries to the world. That's the only way Iraq can do that, guys, is to get their currency tradable and recognized with a regional value. Al-Saadi, American imposed its authority on Iraqi funds.
The specialist in economic affairs, Muhammad Atiyah Al-Saadi, considered that the judiciary's response to the bank's lawsuit from dealing in dollars is irrefutable evidence of the U.S. federal bank's imposition of its authority over Iraqi funds. Al-Saadi said in a press interview seen by Talkadam that the clarification issued by the judiciary confirms that the federal bank has the upper hand in the movement of the dollar in Iraq and that it can impose restrictions and prohibit dealing in dollars with any financial institution that places indicators on it. He added, there is a surprising government silence for 19 years on a treaty concluded in 2004 at the time of an unconstitutional government, noting that the treaty allowed Washington to control Iraqi money and financial transfers based on the agendas of the U.S. Treasury that imposes sanctions on whomever it wants and gives the green light, whomever you want. Al-Saadi called for a review of those treaties and the liberation of the Iraqi economy from dependence on the American decision. The agreement, revealed by the judiciary, had revealed the obligation of the Central Bank of Iraq to stop supplying dollar currency to any recipient, direct or indirect, upon receiving a written request from the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank.
So as you guys see, that's the sanctions right there that they want removed so that Iraq can go international. It says very clearly that this treaty that was imposed on Iraq's government by the United States 19 years ago, in blue here, this blue highlight, back in 2004. Okay, this is what is restricting Iraq. These are the sanctions imposed on them. Okay, and it says that in blue. 19 years ago, a treaty. Iraq, that's one of the reasons why Iraq is going to Washington on February 8th. They want these sanctions of the treaty that were imposed 19 years ago in 2004, they want it removed. Okay, so that Iraq has their freedom to rejoin the international world and revalue their currency. But again, that that pretty much will happen at the same time they revalue the currency. Don't think that we're waiting till for them to lift the sanctions first so they can revalue. Remember I've shown you that all the restrictions have been lifted privately, not publicly. And because of that what that allows them to do is once they go to revalue their currency, the sanctions are automatically removed. Okay? So everything happens at the point of revaluing the currency. Once they revalue the currency, that's the linchpin to everything falling into place. All the dominoes start to fall. All their economic dominoes start to fall once they revalue that currency. It's a linchpin. And the sanctions at that time just automatically go away. Dubai international ports. We want to establish major industrial zones in Iraq. Okay. So as you see in this, Dubai wants to work and do imports and stuff with Iraq. Okay, I'm just showing you, again, we have a lot of articles to cover, guys, so we're not going to read all of them. But this is just showing you how Dubai wants to do international trade with Iraq and have international ports. Okay. Next article here. It says, a new announcement by the central bank on the exchange rate of the dollar. Okay. Here's the article for you guys.
The Central Bank of Iraq issued a new clarification regarding the high exchange rate of the dollar. The bank's advisor, Ihsan al-Yasiri, said in a press statement today, Wednesday, that the rise in the exchange rate of the dollar against the Iraqi dinar is a result of the development of an electronic platform to ensure that the dollar reaches directly to the people who benefit from it without going through additional episodes. Al-Yasiri pointed out that the central bank asked merchants to go to the official centers, which are the official banks, in addition to selling the dollar directly to travelers, and these measures affected the exchange rate of the dollar, stressing that this situation is temporary and the balance will return to the market. About a month ago, the exchange rate of the dollar against the Iraqi dinar has been witnessing a continuous fluctuation between a continuous decrease and increase in the Iraqi markets. The Central Bank of Iraq deals with 14 banks in the currency auction, and these are the banks that adhere to the bank's terms, and the Monetary Services Court dismissed the claims of 4 banks against the bank's governor, after the bank stopped selling the dollar to the 4 banks on November 6, 2022. The Central Bank of Iraq is currently watching 11 banks, and it is possible that a number of these banks will be included in the 4 banks that it does not deal with.
McGurk to al-Araji. The stability of Iraq is the stability of the region and the world.
The National Security Advisor, Qassem al-Araji, stressed today, Tuesday, to the White House Coordinator for Middle East and North Africa Affairs, Brett McGurk, the importance of the international community remaining united against terrorism, while the latter considered that the stability of Iraq is the stability of the region and the world. The media office of the National Security Advisor stated, in a statement received by Al Somalia News, that al-Araji received in his office the White House Coordinator for Middle East and North Africa Affairs, Brett McGurk, and the meeting dealt with ways to strengthen cooperation and partnership relations between Iraq and the United States, in a way that serves the common interests of the two countries. Al-Araji stressed the importance of the international community remaining united against terrorism in all its forms, noting that supporting the government of Mohammed Shia al-Sudani is important to its success, especially in the files of electricity and energy. And he indicated that the government has so far succeeded in implementing its government program according to the specified timings, and it is continuing to work on implementing what it promised in the government curriculum. For his part, McGurk affirmed his country's support for the Sudanese government and its measures since assuming responsibility, noting that the United States supports the priority of the services and electricity files, and the Prime Minister's openness to his regional and international surroundings. He explained that the stability of Iraq is the stability of the region and the world, noting that the presence of foreign forces in Iraq is to provide advice and training. Continued.
Remember I told you guys we're literally just waiting on a calendar date at this point? That's why nothing is happening in Iraq. They're not able to move forward on the budget. The laws, only first and second readings. They're not finishing any laws past first and second readings, guys. Everything's waiting on a calendar date for the rate change. Okay. I highlighted a blue section in the middle for you. It says the government has so far succeeded in implementing its government program according to the specified timings. There you go. There's proof you're waiting on a calendar at this point. Saudi Arabia announces the readiness of its companies to invest in Iraq. Again, we're not going to read this, but it clearly shows you that now even Saudi Arabia is ready to invest in Iraq. Okay? There's a lot of countries and companies wanting to get into Iraq right now because they know they're about to just boom and explode economically. Electricity contracts with U.S. companies and loans to establish 400 power stations. The first phase of contracts signed in, I'm just trying to show you this, guys. This just goes to show you how old some of these agreements are that are coming forward now. Okay? And the reason it's important to see how old they are, because you can clearly see that most of what's happening in Iraq right now has been waiting on the rate change for a long time. These were the agreements that they signed back with like GE and with Siemens, and you can see how long they've been outstanding for. It says the first phase of contracts signed in 2019 and 2020 with Siemens has been fully completed with the roadmap. So these agreements were signed back in 2019 and 2020, and they're just coming forward now in 23. It's because, again, they've been waiting on Iraq to become and go international and get their currency tradable around the world. Kurdistan's share of the budget will be about 13%. We don't need to read that one, guys. Not real critical to us. The decline in the price of the dollar in Baghdad and its rise in Erbil with the closing of the stock exchange.
The exchange rates of the dollar decreased against the Iraqi dinar today, Tuesday, with the closure of the main stock market in Baghdad, while it increased in Erbil, the capital of Kurdistan region. Shafaq news agency reporter said that the Central Al-Khifa Stock Exchange closed in Baghdad at 160,250 Iraqi dinars, compared to $100. While the prices this morning were 160,500 Iraqi dinars per $100. Our correspondent indicated that the buying and selling prices in exchange shops in the local markets in Baghdad have stabilized, as the selling price reached 160,750 Iraqi dinars, while the purchase prices amounted to 159,750 dinars per $100. In Erbil, the dollar recorded an increase with the closing of the stock market, where the selling price reached 160,950 dinars for every $100, and the purchase price was 160,900 dinars for $100.
Parliament is waiting for the arrival of the salary scale for employees from the government. Again, guys, this all has to do with the reforms, okay? We don't need to tear into that. All right, next article. The federal bank requires Iraq to hand over oil revenues.
Economic expert Nasser Al-Khainani confirmed, on Sunday, that the U.S. federal bank requires Iraq to hand over its revenues from selling oil to the countries of the world, while stressing that it is possible to invest in oil exports in the face of the dollar crisis. Al-Khainani said in a press interview seen by Takadam that the federal bank imposes on Iraq the delivery of oil export revenues to the countries of the world, noting that Iraq cannot dispense with foreign currency at all because of the international link with the dollar. And he continued, Iraq has the opportunity to barter, through oil in exchange for work or projects directly, without the need to deposit Iraq's money in America, noting that it is possible to invest oil exports in the face of the dollar crisis. And on the method of supplying money to Iraq, Al-Khainani said, the federal bank is working to send money in dollars to Iraq from time to time, or at the request of.
So, anyway, guys, it's a quiet news day. That is it for our daily news. Thank you for joining me, and have a great day.